So when did you start?
8th grade,
Just
summer
because, or
before her
did you-
freshman year.
I
We
need
played,
to-
we'd go out as a family. But of course she was too cool to play.
Oh, of
Mom
course.
did, but as soon as somebody else
No,
said,
not
I
your
should love
kid.
her. Exactly. So yeah, the summer before her freshman year, she probably, played the most. But obviously, COVID last year, there was nothing else to do.
Right.
Play. She would take me out there, kids put me out of my hair, doing something, and they would go out and play 18, 25, and you would play hours. No, you're really
Really, I know. I don't think he's getting ready to say what's just bring to the pledge.
I have to look, I don't look right, no, right now.
You should have Jackie ready.
You just want to keep standing, Joe?
There it is.
Join me for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Wells, you have a roll?
I do.
Okay, any changes to the agenda?
I just have a couple things at your table for student recognition. The second bread bid is in, so I got all the corresponding paperwork there for you, and then Jeremy Sproats' resignation. Otherwise, everything's on the agenda, it's just the documentation of it.
Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda items, minutes of past meetings, financial report, summary list of bills. And no additional bills this month, correct?
It did not, I will have additional bills before June 30th, I'll send to you privately, or not privately, but just to glance over.
Okay.
I do that each year to try to get as many in, but no, nothing for tonight.
Any questions or discussion on those items? Not, I entertain a motion to approve when you're ready. Move. Second. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda items listed. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Recognition, congratulations to student, staff, and community. Mr. Jordan.
Yes, so like I had mentioned before, I have a document at your table. First, I'd like to congratulate the girls' golf team on their second place finish, the 1A state tournament. Team shot a total of 745, which was 17 strokes better than the third place team. So played very well the entire season, but especially well once we hit the postseason. So congratulations to those 7 ladies. Tatum Jensen individually, 6th place. And then Mariah was tied for 19th. Jana was tied for 35th. Isabel 38th. Cameron 62nd. And then Amelia and Emma both played one day. Amelia the first day and then Emma the second day. So they didn't necessarily post a score for individual place, but both got to compete. So congratulations to that golf team. The trophy right now is on display, will be on display all summer long out at the golf course. So if you're out there for lunch or dinner, you can check out the trophy, and then once school starts back up, we'll get it in the trophy case and recognize the girls, our first kind of back to school assembly at the beginning of the year. So staff recognition, PTC leaders wanted us to specifically thank Steve Bresky, Matt Bixaman, and Todd Nath for all their help with the scoop supper from last month. Not only were they moving tables and basically doing whatever they asked them to do, but they also put together a couple bikes. And we want to thank everybody that donated to that raffle as well within the community. Appreciate their support of the PTC. I would like to recognize Bruce Eckenrod and Jeff Jager, not only for their work at the softball field for that very first game a few weeks ago, but just all their help all summer long. And it's not just our fields, but it's the city Little League fields and the fast pitch fields. And the two of them do the bulk of the field prep and the maintenance out there. So their help is greatly appreciated. And community recognition, so PTC officers were Cassie Radke, Katie Biss, Stacy Even, and Stacy DeGroot. They had kind of 2-year terms. Unfortunately, we didn't get to have the soup supper a year ago, but they stayed on and kind of led that organization. In addition to Jody Schrick is our staff member that's kind of the liaison for PTC. Scoop supper went off well. We had a little inclement weather, but we were able to stay outside the whole time. Missed any lightning or real heavy rain showers. So it was on the playground. And well, anything to add to PTC, Mr. Harmon?
We had 473 meals sold, so a really good turnout there. Yeah, it was a nice format having outside. The kids able to go off and play, and I mean, it was just kind of a revolving door, so it was really nice. And like being in the gym and having anywhere for the kids to go, so it's good.
And then Terry Van Berkom and Jerry Berkey, along with Carter Iwin, Luke Rasmussen, and Ian Wells, donated their time to install the artificial turf. One of the last things finished out at the softball field back in May. So Terry, again, helped us out a lot over the years, and appreciate all that he did. And then Pizza Ranch bought everybody lunch that helped as well. So I want to make sure that those individuals, and especially the girls' golf team, is recognized for their achievement.
So with that inclement weather, maybe 1 or 2 people in this room successfully avoided the dunk tank? Until next year?
Until next year, yep.
Okay.
That was a decision we made early.
Not bad. Okay, thank you for that.
You bet.
Communications, public participation on non-agenda items. Joel, Carrie, anybody signed up on there? Anybody's here to speak? Okay. Any additional correspondence? Okay. Reports, school business official.
I have nothing additional to report at this time.
Okay. Board members have anything? All I have is that the CLSF is finishing their preparations for the all-school reunion this Sunday, right? Saturday.
Saturday. Yep.
Yep, for Heritage Days. Mr. Jorth, throw it back to you.
Yeah, so current openings, the one at the highest level is Jeremy Stroke just tendered his resignation for Director of Transportation. Last month I spoke about the need for route drivers in addition to activity drivers. So that's kind of on the forefront of my mind. In addition, we've got National Honor Society, large group speech still open as well. And then the assistant football and assistant wrestling that Thomas McDowell resigned last month.
And baseball, if you ever want Jason out of it.
Yep. So we've posted the Director of Transportation on our website on Teach Iowa, and we're going to start to make the push social media wise. And we've got some buses that we need some maintenance on, some annual maintenance. So I'm going to talk to some of our local vendors that we've used in the past to see if they've got any leads for us or can provide some recommendations that I can follow up with for Director of Transportation. So want to thank Jeremy for his service to the district. I think since 2008 he's been employed at Central Lyon in one form or another, helping us out. So appreciate his service for the last 13 years. And wish him the best of luck at the County Roads Department. So almost a week and a half ago, we met with members of the city council and kind of city leadership, talk about just future opportunities for partnerships and working with them. Andy and Joel sat in as our representatives. And we talked about a lot of different things, but our two big takeaways that we're going to kind of see forward here in the next couple months is trying to kind of market Rock Rapids, Central Lyon collectively as a team. And so Micah Freeze was going to kind of lead that side of the partnership up and kind of reach out to some marketing firms and see what we can do on local media, but then regional media as well and social media to try to promote the school and the city. And then we also had some conversations about, in the past, there was discussions about a community rec center. And so I'm going to put together kind of a community-wide survey to get some feedback, not only on the rec center, but also in the same vein about what, caused you to live in Rock Rapids or return to Rock Rapids or the school district if you've been away and came back, and just try to get some ideas for if we're going to be marketing, how we might be able to sell ourselves to others looking, trying to decide, where might I live, but I want to have a kind of a small town, medium-sized school for my kids to attend. So those are two big ones. Joel, Andy, anything else you guys want to add from that conversation?
Nope. That's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I think you hit it all. We had 6 reps from the city, including Micah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was a good kickoff meeting. I think we talked about meeting based on the needs of what we're looking at, maybe quarterly or every few months. So it's a group we hope to keep together moving forward.
You bet. Third item then is LED project. All that work's been concluded. So you saw in the summary list of bills some of that labor and materials for that project. So if you were to walk in the gym afterwards, we could flip on the lights and you can see what the new gym looks like. But hallways, commons, and then we kind of started at the north end of the building. So the industrial tech, the shop, the classrooms on that north end have been done. That'll leave us kind of the middle section of the building here for next summer on this first floor, and then the second floor as well, middle school and high school kind of core classroom spaces for that last phase of LED project. So I didn't have it on here, but we've received all the smart boards. They've been installed in the elementary and middle school classrooms. Curtis and Todd and Matt have been doing that over the course of the last week. So nice upgrade there. Otherwise, like I said, the softball field, we've got some work left to kind of finish, but we're going to let the season play itself out before we turn our attention to kind of some of the finishing touches that will conclude after the season's over.
Okay, any questions from Mr. Jorth on that? All right, moving on to old business. Item A, second reading of new policy 704.6.
Yeah, so we had the first reading last month. Again, these are new policies for us, policies that we have not had in the past. That's why I brought them back for a second reading. But nothing new to add.
There's not any additional discussion on those. Entertain a motion to approve the second reading.
So moved.
Second. A motion and second to approve the second reading of new policies 704.6 and 706.3 and R1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. New business. Item A, consider property, casualty, and workman's comp insurance for 2021-2022.
Yeah, so I've got both A and B on my memo, but we will need to take separate action on them because they're separate policies when it comes to insurance. Carrie, Dave, Jackie, and I last Thursday met with Lisa Deeren, who's kind of representing EMC Insurance, and then Jack Kirkhab from Gallagher, agent for IPSIP, the Iowa Public Schools Insurance Program, to kind of review both of these policies. And so the EMC renewal, when we look at our property casualty, workman's comp, general liability, basically all of the school's insurance, including auto, their quote was $141,567, and then IPSIP had a very similar quote, $167,116. The biggest difference between those two policies, IPSIP had some additional coverages, higher ceilings, so to speak, for certain policies. Otherwise, all the individual components and policies within that were the same, so we're not necessarily cutting any policies that we might have had in the past. The EMC quote, actually, if we look at it over time, and we compare it even just to last year, is $16,000, almost $17,000 less, and it's really, the big bulk is from workman's comp. The workman's comp mod for us, we've had some of those claims fall off from last year to this year, and so that's where the biggest savings is coming from. In addition to, when we talked with Lisa about how we might be able to also save some additional dollars when it comes to insurance, was deductibles for the property. Right now, all of our deductibles are at $1,000 per occurrence. Her recommendation, we've only had 5 claims in the last 5 years when it comes to property, is to maybe bump up our property deductible up to the $5,000. So we were able to save approximately another $6,000 on the overall policy, just changing that deductible. So the differences between the companies, EMC had a long-time partnership with ISB, and there's about 300 different schools across the state that are members and purchase EMC's coverage for schools. IPSIP is more of a co-op, okay? So they're a younger firm in Iowa. They've only been around since 2008, and there's only 17 schools that are in that program or in that co-op with them. And so there's benefits to that co-op model, but as we kind of looked at it, it seemed like there was larger schools in that IPSIP of the 17 than smaller schools. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, the $26,000 savings is significant, in addition to maybe some of the additional sharing of risk by having 300 other schools as a part of that policy was what we kind of talked about as a reason to stay with EMC. So anything to add, Dave or Carrie, when it comes just to the property casualty, workman's comp items?
No, I don't think so. I was happy with how some of the recommendations or suggestions that Lisa came forward with, like increasing the deductibles. And she showed us different levels, going from $1,000 where we're at to $5,000 or even to $10,000. Well, yeah, you could reduce the amount of your premium by going to $10,000, but it really wasn't that much less. I think it was like $1,500 in savings on premium, going from $5,000 to $10,000. So it seemed like that $5,000 made more sense. So yeah.
We decided to stay the same for auto deductibles. We didn't increase or adjust any of that, just because those are quite possibly more often claims that are come in.
Just more chances for occurrence.
Yep, our claims are much greater in the auto side, and the repairs, due to the kind of the nature of automobiles and buses these days, most repairs are automatically $1,000, and I think I don't know how many claims we had this year, but there's over 20 in the last 5 years, so.
Even just with windshield chips and those kinds of things, it tends to, we put in more claims more often, but yeah. The few repairs that we have had have been all $1,500 or more.
Okay. Any board discussion on that particular item?
I'll make a motion to approve the EMC bid for property casualty general liability.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve the EMC insurance renewal quote for $141,567 for property casualty and workman's comp insurance for 2021-2022. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Equipment maintenance or kind of equipment breakdown insurance proposal, again, specialty underwriters, operated by Jester Insurance, which is, again, a partner of ISB. If you remember a year ago, it was about $80,000 for that, addition to our management fund. We saw about $50,000 usage out of that. And so when we went into this, we talked with SU about getting an adjustment if we didn't use a bulk of that. And so their renewal quote was $56,500 basically. Jack Kirkhab from Gallagher, they have a similar product, but it's through a different insurance company, the Remy Group. Their quote was at $69,960. So again, very similar policies, coverage is very much the same. Really, it's for electrical components and kind of preventative maintenance on the equipment that we already have in our building. So the bulk of our claims came in technology, laptops, smart boards, stuff like that, but then also we were able to recoup some repairs and items for HVAC, and then our fire alarm system as well is where we use the bulk of that policy. So again, appreciated specialty underwriters coming back with a revised quote based on our usage, and that would be our recommendation for next year.
And just as a reminder with this policy, is that this comes out of the management fund. And so we had made that switch, instead of having our repairs and all that come out of the general fund, we're able to use this out of the management fund. And so,
Another tool that like we said we were gonna use to try to save us some general fund dollars. Granted, comes at a cost to our taxpayers, but also kind of lightens the burden on the general fund, which is we've been targeting the last couple of years.
And it was nice to see the renewal quote now is in the $23,000-4,000 range.
Yep.
More closely matched with approximately what we used.
Exactly.
Make a motion to approve the specialty underwriters quote for the equipment maintenance insurance 21-22.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the equipment maintenance insurance through specialty underwriters for $56,556 for 2021-2022. Any more discussion on that from the board? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item C, consider milk and bread bids for 2021-2022.
So that's the document that I provided, that's an update from what was in the original packet. While we had the milk bids, Land O'Lakes and Kemp's, we did not have the bread bids, and so that's what I've updated and included for you. We currently have, or the Land O'Lakes provides the milk bids or the dairy bids, and then the two bids that I added were from Casey's and Bimbo Bakeries for bread. And we currently have Casey's Bakery out of Sioux Center for the bread bid. And you can see there's a significant difference actually between both companies in both areas. So speaking with Darcia, her recommendation, and I would concur, is to move forward with Land O'Lakes for dairy and Casey's for bread bits.
Any questions or discussion on those? Looks like they're pretty straightforward. If not, I would entertain a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve those two recommendations.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve Land O'Lakes for dairy and Casey's Bakery for bread for the 2021-2022 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, consider meal prices for 2021-2022.
So, based upon not only those items, but just our food costs in general, I'm sure everybody recalls in here that the vast majority of our meals this year were provided at no cost to families. And word is from the USDA that will be the same case going forward for this next school year as well. So the only item on all these prices that there's an increase is the adult lunch. All adults that are eating paid $3.85 this last year, to pay $3.95 next year, and that's already on a scale, with something we don't actually get to control. It's dictated by the USDA for adult meals. So parents, if their children have a second lunch or a second milk or a second entree, that's the only time they would be charged. Otherwise, that first time through the line basically is at no charge, whether it's breakfast or lunch. But if you get seconds of anything, that's when you start getting charged. The last paragraph is important, that's in the memo. We still want to encourage families to complete the free and reduced lunch waivers, because that's what we use to waive other fees, whether it's your textbook fee, driver's education, or anything else that might come up during the school year. If you've completed that paperwork, then we can waive those other fees. So we still want to encourage, and you'll see that in July's kind of newsletter that we send out. So we're still asking people to fill those waivers out, because they'll get those fees waived, but then from the school's perspective, that also qualifies us. We have to submit those percentages when we fill out all of our federal programs and some of our state programs, so that we can get funding based upon the number of students in the district that are on free and reduced lunch. So it's really what the feds use to kind of calculate the poverty rate, and then those federal dollars follow the number of students that have actually completed the paperwork. So it's very important that we still encourage people to fill that stuff out.
Okay, thank you for that. Any discussions or questions on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion when you're ready.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the meal prices as recommended for 2021-2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item E, consider fuel bids for 21-22.
So again, Popke's and the co-op provided fuel bids. And these are discounts on what's actually just at the pump. So anytime we would go, that's either using a charge card or just charging it within the station itself. That would be the reduction. So the recommendation is to approve the Popke's bid at 14 and, what is that, 9/10 of a penny reduction discount.
It's pretty straightforward.
I'll make a motion motion to approve pop fees.
Second.
Motion and a second, we have a motion and a second to approve Popkey's for few bids for 2021-2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item F, consider fees for 21-22.
So, my recommendation is to kind of maintain fees with no change compared to this last school year for textbook fees, activity tickets, driver's ed, and our substitute pay. I know we made changes last year to the activity ticket prices. So my recommendation continues to be kind of maintain those items as we set them last year. No changes.
Last year we had added, was it $10 for activity ticket?
I think it might have been $15 for the adult ticket.
Okay.
We did not change anything for senior citizens or students. And then the family went from, I believe, $170 to $200. So it's
Okay.
the same percentage.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was $15 or $10, but whatever we did for the adult, we did for the, I believe so.
We had a discussion last year on the board table about this when it came up about what to do as it relates to COVID. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Jorth, but you had looked back and of the events that were either sold out or spectators were not allowed for one reason or another,
Yep,
that amounted to about 35% of our events, is that correct?
yep. And the bulk of them were basketball and volleyball games, because we didn't limit anything outside for football in the winter, and then obviously wrestling as well. But 35% were either parents only, or when we had the ticketing process, we basically gave all of the tickets away. It's not that, I think less than 20% of all the games were parents only. We did some sort of ticketing process for about 15% of the games. Or the ticketing process, we didn't sell out, so to speak. You could still show up at the gate and get in and pay. So if you wanted to do something different, my recommendation, we've kept, records of who bought adult and family activity tickets. If you wanted to do something, I would reduce it just for those people that bought those tickets. But if you didn't buy a ticket last year and you're doing something that this year for the first time, I would recommend, keeping it at the same rate. But then if I was a family that bought one last year, reducing it for those individuals or those families by 35%. So the family ticket could go from $200 to $130, or the individual adult would go down to $65.
There's an increase of $30 to the family ticket and $15 to the adult. Just to confirm.
So you would not include the bottom two categories on that?
Correct. I would keep those the same.
Thoughts on that? I specifically recall using the words of doing the right thing, correct, this year, that we were gonna, I personally voted for the raise, is that next year when this time came around, we needed to reevaluate and do the right thing. Any discussion on that? As far as a discount?
I think we kind of made the point that last year we said that we would do something this year, so I think it's only right that those that bought a ticket last year should get a big discount on 35% this year.
How many senior citizen tickets did we stop?
I would have to have the offices, I don't.
I don't have
those
it
records.
broken down by each individual ticket.
Are there very many family or adult tickets that get sold outside of people that are going to come to the activity anyway because they have kids in the event? So they probably came, last year anyway, and utilized that activity.
Yeah, there's a fair share of elementary families that don't necessarily have a son or daughter that are playing varsity, football or basketball or whatever, that buy family tickets because they've got, 2, 3, 4 kids, yet they still want to come to the games. Much like Joel's family right now, a lot of families like that buy family
Sure.
tickets.
Okay. Makes sense. So what do? Do you reduce the price across the board, or do you leave it up to those individuals to come forward and say, hey, can I get a reduction based on this?
Well, they said they have record.
They have record of
They have
who bought.
record of who bought those family passes, so they
Last year.
can just automatically
Okay.
give it out.
for renewal, then they can
Mhm.
buy it at the reduced
That makes
price.
sense.
So if we did a 35% discount for those who purchased last year, the family drops to what, 130?
Yep,
The adult down to 65,
yep.
and the senior citizen at 50. I personally think those folks are probably the most impacted.
I would be okay giving it to the senior citizens as well.
Which
I would-
35% off of 50 does not go to a nice round number.
I would just do $30 then.
So I would be in favor of that. So put that out there.
I would make that motion. If we're ready for
So family, adult, and senior citizen.
Yep, 130, 65, and 30 respectively.
And just
that.
for
Only
the,
if they bought
If they purchased one last year
last
at
year,
these,
correct,
at
not for
these
the-
prices.
Correct.
I'd be curious to know how many, how many there are, but yeah, I think that'd be the good thing to do.
Got a second?
Sure, that's a second.
Jackie, ballpark figure, I want to say it's
Yeah.
like $6,000 we take in, or I'm taking that historically.
That's pretty close.
Yep.
Yep.
Most of that probably comes.
I just think we have to do the right thing here on this one. Any more discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the fees listed with the exception of the activity tickets. For those who purchased tickets last year, the family price will go to 130, the adult will go to 65, and the senior citizen will go to $30. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item G, consider annual appointments.
So again, these are items that we do each year, and we're bound by policy to do so. So as it's listed on the agenda and then in the memo, Jackie as the board secretary and treasurer, Randy Wagmeister as legal counsel, Steve Harmon and Jason Engelman as level 1 investigators for their respective grade levels, Kate Gerber, Jessica Harmon, level 2 investigators, but then they also add the suicide prevention coordinator title. And then Lyon County Sheriff's Department as the level 3 investigator. The only change is last year I was affirmative action, Title IX, and 504 coordinator. Amanda took some trainings through ISB this year. And the recommendation from ISB is not to have your Title IX coordinator and your affirmative action equity coordinator be the same person, because sometimes those things can overlap, and so to have a separate person. She's went through that training, actually serving in that role in the other 2 districts, so that would be the only change from last year to this year.
Randy with our legal counsel, do we ever use other outside counsel? So do we, if he's appointed, do we call him first, or what's that process?
Yep, so a lot of times I've used Steve Avery
Okay.
if it's something that we need to turn around quicker. Again, that's just based on what Mr. Ackerman recommended when he was done, if we need something in a shorter time frame, so to speak.
And sometimes I think it's somewhat based on expertise as well.
Yep.
Do we have to appoint one?
Gotta have one, yep.
Can we appoint more than one?
You can if you
Should
want to.
rephrase my question. So we could throw an or in there if we wanted to make it official, but, you know, I know Randy has been available when we needed him for personnel matters and whatnot, but
And in the past, we've actually called down to Allers
Yeah,
too, if we've had
Allers and
to,
Cooney.
so.
Right.
Similar type of thing, a lot of times Allers and Cooney, we engage when we've got special ed question or
Bond issues.
bond issues. And
When we had a pretty significant staffing issue several years ago, we used dollars. So I don't know that multiple is necessary, just so you guys are aware that there are other calls made when needed.
That time of year, you warned me.
I'm taking it
You
for the
warned
team
me.
right now.
I know. If there's no more discussion or questions on that, entertain a motion to approve those appointments when we're ready.
I'll make a motion to approve those appointments as listed.
A second.
Motion and second to approve the appointments as listed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item H, personnel. Let's take, I think we can take all three of these together.
Yep. So again, I spoke a little bit about Jeremy Sproke already. The principals both have memos in here for mentors for our new staff members, whether they're new to the profession or just new to the district in general. And then my memo is for the volunteers, whether we're medical assistants or helping out with FFA or our coaching positions.
Questions, discussion?
How many of these, Kubenhoven is a new grad, yeah?
Yep.
And Kuiper?
Yep.
Kramer's been in South Dakota before,
Yep.
and yeah.
Shipper's been at another district in Iowa.
Yeah.
Cherokee and Okoboji before that. So 2 new to the profession,
Yeah,
and then 2 that have experience.
and remind me again, Kuiper is TK or kindergarten?
TK.
Okay.
So the new staff members will have 2 years of mentoring and induction, so those mentors will spend 2 years with them.
Alright.
Those that have experience, we usually just match the first year unless we feel like a second year is needed.
And thanks for our volunteers for doing that. I know that it takes a lot of time, a lot of personal vacation time they use and other things that contribute to the success of those programs. Thanks for that. If there's no more discussion, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resignation, hiring, and volunteers as listed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item I, closed session, annual evaluation of Superintendent Brett Jorth.
Before we move into that, can we sign some bills?
Sure.
I'm probably not gonna stick around for the closed session, so my apologies. Unless you just wanna do this afterwards, but. Just easier to get it done.
Take care of that.
Thanks, guys. The only other thing I would mention, maybe, now that Jessica's left, is the senior night we moved the senior night for baseball from July 5th to Thursday, June 24th. And primary reason there is Donovan Morales reports for basic training on the 1st of July. So we want to make sure we recognize him with the rest of his fellow seniors on the baseball field. That's the only date that's different that I printed here. Yes, I'll text him.
What was the question asked about dollar amount for activity tickets? I finally found my spreadsheet.
How many, what's the total adult?
Dollar.
I don't have that separation, I just have total is 11,160.
Between students and.
That's including students.
Let me see if I can find it.
So let's see, all high school students have pretty much all.
7 through 12 if you're involved in an activity.
I still might be able to
Whether
find